Look, before I even get into the topic for this video, yes, I know my beard looks stupid. I made a mistake. I had an old razor that I used to trim this all the time, and I was like, oh, I'm just going to take it and shave it off because it's getting itchy. Well, little did I know that it barely had any battery. So all I did was just go like this, and it died immediately. So I shaved here, and it made a split. Now, I ordered a new one. It hasn't come in yet, and I don't feel like taking scissors and try to trim it up. So I was just going to leave it as it is, and I could look stupid. It doesn't matter. Now, I am very glad that I did not die shaving half my face, so I had half a beard, but that would be pretty funny. Regardless. All right, so the topic of today's video. The topic of today's video is me asking you the question, are you bored of playing that same 15-year-old game that just lost its touch, and you're just sitting here trying to figure out what you want to do with your life while you're stuck in quarantine? Well, today's video is about a new game that could potentially fix all those problems. I'm going to be talking about Amazon's New World. Yes, I said Amazon. It's Amazon Game Studios' first IP, and it's going to be a pretty good one as far as I can tell. Amazon obviously has a lot of money and hiring power, and I think it's important that we look at this one because it could be a big game. I'm going to talk about everything you need to know about New World, just so when the game comes out in May and the open beta or closed beta comes out in April, you can pre-order the game and play it. That way you can make a great educated decision whether or not you actually want to buy the game or even just pre-order in April. So let's get right into it. So what is New World? New World, it's an MMO. Again, it's made by Amazon Games, but it's set on an island. The island's name is Eternum, and it's set during the 17th century. So it's a little bit older kind of style MMO, but it does have magic, all that kind of stuff. The main antagonist of the MMO is called corruption. Now, the reason people go there is to find eternal life, and instead of finding eternal life, they find corruption, like a dark, twisted force that just turns things into monsters and just wants to kill all living things. The premise of the story is kind of like life versus death because they do have enemies that are, they look like wood creatures. When you see the trailer, you have this like wood kind of deer battling this like red evil bear, and it's just life versus death. Life always comes back, but so does death. Now when the adventurers get there, they find this corruption. In the trailer you see that they turn into monsters and people are still trying to fight for ultimate power, and that's the kind of story that New World follows. And you're gonna have to fight your way through all these corrupted monsters to get gear and whatnot, and the battles and that. Now, when you first get there, you obviously have to level. The game starts you off at level 1. You have to get to level 60. Level 60 has a few ways. There's not too much said about what ways you can level, but it did mention in one of the developer updates how certain players got there. They mentioned one player, the first one to ever get 60, made it by doing 38 missions, so 38 quests, and the other one did it by doing 700 missions, 700 quests. Now, missions are a way to get gear, but also level. And missions will give you rewards. So I wonder, like, how much money and gear the level 60 that did 38 quests has compared to the one that did 700 quests has. So we'll have to see there. Something you'll probably have to learn when we get access to the beta. But it seems like there's different ways other than questing to level, and that seems pretty good. The progression in the MMO is kind of weird. So first of all, like, they don't mention much about how your character progresses other than, you know, do these missions to get gear and you level normally like an MMO. The known progression isn't character skills. Like, you don't get points as you level up. They didn't mention much about what happens when you level. Did mention though, when you level a weapon, you get skills. So there aren't character skills. Your character doesn't get a skill. The weapon you use gets a skill. Now that's interesting because if you pick up a throwing axe, you get different weapons for a throwing axe as you would for a bow, as you would for a sword and shield, and as you would for, you know, just a giant mace. They have a video where you'll see throwing axe skills, sword and shield skills, and even some dude, he's got this giant like two-hander. He just goes like, oh, kaya, and there's just this giant fisher and does a lot of damage. Seems pretty cool. Now you're asking me, like, what about being a mage? Well, mage is interesting. So you get attributes and you put those attributes to intelligence to become a stronger mage. Now, what's interesting is they just mentioned the more intelligence you have, the stronger mage you are. So you might be able to split it off and you get intelligence and strength and get those two. You might be able to become a battle mage. So you might have cool builds, but I haven't seen much about it from their news page and the forums. I don't see much about it, but that's really about it. But there's cool spells. All I've seen so far is Rain of Fire, which is just AoE of giant fire bolts coming down. So that might be their like cool skill, like the high level one, or there might be better skills. So we don't know. Now, what's the point of progressing in this MMO? Like, why even get weapon skills? Well, they do have PvE, they have PvP. So PvP is more important. Apparently, to them, when they first started the MMO, the game was based around PvP. Interesting story about this game is that when it was first into development, they focused on PvP instead of PvE. And how PvP worked was they had a criminal system, and if you were a criminal, you could go around, kill people, and steal their inventory. You can get more gold and stuff, but also if you died as a criminal, you would lose all your loot. So it didn't. It just made a toxic environment, as they mentioned. Now a lot of PvPers and people who originally played the game do not like this, and that's okay. If you don't like this change and you were a big PvPer, look, I understand why. It's kind of like you were false advertised and you're super excited for a game, and now the game's different than you thought. That's okay. Honestly, you're entitled to your opinion. I understand why you're mad. But for me, as an MMO player, I love PvP. But the toxic kind of PvP stuff isn't always good because it's a niche. Like, there are games that thrive off that, but that's a niche kind of gameplay. When you lose all your inventory, it's just like, why even play after that? Especially if you lose in a cheated way. Like, if you feel cheated out of your loss, why even start again? Now, you can argue with that. That's fine. But I think a game thrives off of having different content than PvP and not focusing on one type of gameplay. I believe that the changes they're making to focus on PvP and PvE players, the best move they could have done, and it's gonna make a better community out of it. No toxic kind of gameplay, no evil kind of system to make you lose, just fun PvP that you can kind of opt into. Now, yes, I said opting into. You have to opt into your PvP. Now, the types of PvP you can do when you opt in are different. So the first one and the more 1v1 exciting one is world PvP. You go out in the world, you're farming something, you find another person out there, you can fight them. Open world PvP, open combat. So that's the kind of simple, fun PvP. And then they really focused or said they were going to do a heavy focus on large scale combat PvP. So they have faction battles or settlement battles where it's 50v50. Two leaders kind of initiate the battle. Then you have a complete 100 player battle where you get points as you fight on. And now those points are pretty interesting. I have not seen this in gameplay yet or what the points can do. They've only mentioned what they can do. But you spend those points, like for example, if you're on defense, you spend those points into barricades and things to stop your enemy from, rushing in. And on offense, if you're doing well, you get points, spend them into siege weapons, towers, and things to help you invade. Now, those are going to be pretty cool. The only thing that I really see an issue with is getting enough players to do this if the game dies. So I really hope they have a healthy community where there's enough players to do this quite often. If you feel like you want to do it, it might be hard. So maybe it'll be like World of Warcraft 40-man raids. They don't seem hard to get, but there are nights where you don't have 40 people and you're surviving with 30. Something like that. So let's hope that doesn't have an issue. But all in all, I think the PvP changes are pretty good. I think they fit what the game wants to go into, where it does have PvE and PvP. Now, PvE, there's not much known other than the fact that you're going around, killing monsters, doing missions for rewards. But they do have boss type gameplay. Now, there is no raids or dungeons, but there are world events where you might have to fight a boss or, where the corrupted or whatever faction you're trying to fight will invade your settlement and you'll have to defend the settlement, not from players, but from NPC monsters. And at the end, there might be a boss. There isn't much known about it. Probably won't know till beta. So we'll have to see what that PvE style is and goes into. But just know the base core PvE is, missions, killing mobs, getting loot, and then doing boss type events which could be going out to a certain area in the map and fighting this boss. Those kind of events. That's the base of PvE. Now, what's important with PvE and PvP is player housing. Now, I talked about settlements. You might be asking, what are settlements? Settlements are part of your faction's, like, it's like a city kind of, but it's not a big city. It's just player-owned cities. Now, it isn't owned by one player. You have a governor player that kind of sets the tax and is like the leader of that city, but the city thrives off all the players. So, for example, let's say that settlement wants to invade another settlement, and you don't want to do that. You actually don't have to. You have that choice. So you could negatively affect the settlement or positively affect it. Also can buy a house in that settlement. So when you buy a house, depending on what size the house is, the more money it's going to cost. Now, the money doesn't go to the governor, but the governor can choose how much he wants to tax you. For example, if the governor wants to tax you a 5% rate because he needs money, or the settlement needs money, he can do that. But you can do a low one, and that's why you get to choose what settlement you want to go to. What's really cool is the house serves as some reward. So for PvP, if your house is there, you want to protect that settlement. You don't want to have, someone come in and take it over. Also, it serves as a hub. So, if you're out in the world, you want to go back to town, you can teleport to your house. So you have a free teleport house teleport when you buy the house. But also, if you kill a boss in PvE, you can use the head or whatever they're called to hang up on the wall, and that will give you a buff. So there's some cool things you can do with that, crafting buffs, all sorts of stuff. That's awesome. You also got to understand there's also factions. Now, there's faction battles, factions own territory battles. There's a lot into factions, but after a certain point in leveling, you can unlock a faction. You get to pick between. There's a Marauders, Syndicate, and Covenant. Now, Marauders, they're kind of ruthless army faction that built on strength and really just wants to conquer territories and serve and have the greatest warriors in a faction. The second one is the Syndicate. Now, as you probably already know, with most Syndicate named factions or whatever their groups or whatever, it's an organization that's pretty secretive, that's trying to find forbidden knowledge, basically take over the world almost, whatever they feel like doing with it, take over the island. Just that one seems shady, if you're a Syndicate player, F you. I'm just kidding. I don't really know if that's going to be the one. Now, the Covenant, this is my juice. I'm going to read the definition they gave. Covenant is a fanatical order that has charged itself with cleansing the land of heretics and defilers, so that its true holy nature can flourish and justice can be restored. Now, this is like those Christian crazy dudes who just want to kill everybody in the name of God. That's what I feel like this one is be, or this might just be a holy kind of like, you did bad, we are coming to serve justice. I don't know which one it is, but it'll be interesting to see what it is. I really hope they're crazy nut jobs that want to kill everyone in the name of justice, but we'll see. That'll be awesome. But factions also, they do more missions for a faction. So once you get into a faction, you have your territories that have missions that'll give you rewards. You'll do territory wars along with settlement wars, so it's pretty interesting. The faction part seems nice compared to most other faction games I've seen, but it could play a good part in the game, a bad part I don't really know yet. All right, I forgot one thing. I forgot to talk about crafting. Crafting is super important to the game. Crafting basically allows you to craft, armor, weapons, a whole bunch of stuff. But really what crafting plays a role into is your settlement. So when you're in a settlement, you can become the settlement's armor smith, weaponsmith, whatever profession you are, and build towards that settlement. I haven't seen crafting trees, but settlements seem to really need crafting and professions. That could be really cool. You can make a lot of money. You could have a job. It's just your crafting means something. And I think that's why crafting seems so cool. And yes, before you ask, I got cold. I'm cold, man. I'll put a blanket on. Yeah. So that's really it for New World. So a few things I want to cover. First of all, the game might be delayed by the time you watch this video. I've said it earlier. I'm going to say it as you get into it. You might, even in the middle of the video, get notification that the game is delayed. Most games are delaying right now. Wouldn't be surprised if this one is. So if it's not, the beta will come out this month as they promised, hopefully, and then the game will come out in May. So if you want to access the beta, you have to pre-order the game. The game is $30, or you get the deluxe edition for $40. You get some rewards. There's going to be the links in the description for all the info I got from the site, and then also where to buy the game and all the rewards you get with it. Secondly, if you like this game, you're interested in it, I'm going to be doing more videos touching on some of the topics I did, like settlements and player housing, because they go really in depth. There's a lot more I could talk about it. I just didn't want to make this video very long. Also, player versus player, things like that. So go ahead and like the video, subscribe to it, ring the bell, whatever. I'm going to make more videos. So if you want to learn more, I have some of those out in a few days. Then if you're interested in New World, I'll have links on their Twitter and website and all that kind of stuff. Then also, you can follow my Twitter. If you want to talk to me about New World, have any questions, go ahead. If you want to argue with me, call me ugly, make fun of my beard, whatever you want to do. And then also, when the game comes out, I'll be streaming it on Twitch. I stream now. If you're interested in random games, go ahead, watch. But if you're interested in New World, the first day of beta, I will be playing. So that's really it for the video, guys. Again, if you have any questions, leave a question in the comment. DM me on Twitter. DM me on YouTube if that's a thing. Whatever you want to do. That's it. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you in the next one.